Warning! This video contains rumors, speculation, strong opinions, and a Mad Max. And I'm really mad this time, and I'm back, and it's because Rian Johnson. Now, it brings me no joy in making this video, but we have to be prepared. A lot of other YouTubers claim to be first to break news or get their Star Wars news from the future. But you longtime viewers of this channel and friends of this series and friends of mine, honestly, please comment below where you heard first that Rian Johnson's trilogy was canceled. And who said it was a BS announcement first. And this is why it pains me to say the danger is real with James Bond. Especially because another egomaniac, Daniel Craig. When people that have dealt with SJWs talk about doubling down, this is it. They lose. You think you're okay with Star Wars because we all knew his trilogy was canceled a long time ago, no matter what he says. But you're not. They don't admit failure. So looking back at one of my first videos, Rian Johnson's trilogy is canceled. And I in some of my early videos, I said they'll never announce it's canceled. They'll just keep announcing new projects. Or Rian enjoyed his time with Star Wars and The Last Jedi, but he had another opportunity that he could not pass up. And this is what... Again, this is my speculation, and I absolutely do not want this to happen. 100% he's not making his trilogy. 100%. He may write it so he could get that part of his contract, because his contract basically was to write a trilogy so he could get his money. He still has to present it to be approved for the budget. And that part is never going to happen. So, even though it's baloney when he says, yup, fist bump, he's putting on a front so he can write and get money, and then they can always pass on it. They are never going to approve a budget for a Rian Johnson trilogy. It's not going to happen. But this is how they're going to spin it, is he had a different opportunity. He had another opportunity that he could not pass up. What better way to say, oh, he couldn't do Star Wars. He had another obligation that he couldn't pass up. Get prepared, viewers, because this is what's happening. Rian passes on Star Wars trilogy to make Bond 25. There's your headline. There's your spin. I was just waiting to see how they were going to spin it. So when this came out, like a week after some other Rian Johnson news, and I'm not sure how close this is to the Danny Boyle firing. Timing is everything with movie making. If it doesn't happen quick, it doesn't happen. And the timing and the writing is on the wall with this one, especially with Daniel Craig signing on so fast for Rian Johnson's next film, Knives Out. That's another reason I made this video, and it's very telling. They will not admit defeat, and they will not admit when they are wrong. And Daniel and the Broccoli's are just looking for a woke opportunity. And before they get real woke with the next James Bond, this is as woke as you're going to get with Rian Johnson after Star Wars. And Daniel is another hipster art house round-headed a-hole who has been holding up Bond 25 with his artistic endeavors for years. I'm sick of these idiots attached to franchises that claim they have so much artistic vision. Then go make a movie with your own characters and own story, and don't ever show it to anyone if you're so passionate about your artistic vision. and stay away from Star Wars and James Bond. I'm so sick of Daniel Craig. This shouldn't even be a discussion. He should have been replaced years ago. And James Bond 25 is the only other movie I planned to boycott. And Star Wars Solo is the first movie I've ever boycotted. But I was planning on Bond 25. And it's because of his comments from an interview years ago. I'd rather, and let's revisit those comments. This is Daniel Craig after the last James Bond release. What a way to reward fans that spent their hard-earned money to see your movie. And that's pretty much the only Daniel Craig movie that the general public pays for. I'd rather break this glass and slash my wrists. No, not at the moment, not at all. That's fine. I'm over it at the moment. We're done. All I want to do is move on. And then, this is the other reason I will not support Daniel Craig as James Bond for Bond 25. If I did another Bond movie, it would only be for the money. Then he shouldn't be Bond. Because it's an opportunity. And Rian Johnson had an opportunity too. Enough with these artistic a-holes that take opportunities away from others and think they're too good for the property. Make your own property if you have such a vision. You're not a visionary. You were on a franchise film and you ruined the franchise. Now, I was for Craig until he made those comments. I liked him as Bond, but no, I don't support anybody that treats the fans and the properties. They should be thanking their lucky stars. Both of them. And they're arrogant with their comments, self-righteous, egomaniacs, art house hipster doofuses. And then there's other reports. His prayers have been answered. According to an exclusive report, Sony offered the actor $150 million to feature in 2 more Bond films. And this is when he said he's going to slash his wrists. Don't forget that. $150 million for 2 movies, and he's going to slash his wrists. There's a fan base that wants to see him. The franchise that made him a big name. What was his best role before Bond? Tomb Raider? Daniel, the key for a seamless, safe transition as far as Sony and Bond bosses are concerned, they're prepared to pay a king's ransom to make it happen. And Craig isn't done with his baloney yet. Part of that reason Danny Boyle was fired was Daniel Craig. Numerous actors are tipped to play the iconic role once Craig finishes. Tom Hardy, Damian Lewis, Henry Cavill, and Idris Elba. And this is when he first said he was going to slash his wrists if he had to do it. Holding up all these other actors that would be willing and love to play James Bond. Well, at the time, that's what the articles were. Screw these Hollywood elitists. Don't do it then. You never heard Hugh Jackman complaining about being Logan or Wolverine. He embraced it. Or talked about suicide to accept $150 million. Well, that's it. I don't support Daniel or Rian. But I'm telling you now, the quickness that Daniel accepted a role for Rian's upcoming movie is extremely suspect. And this is exactly how they would spin it, and all the elite in Hollywood that is for Rian Johnson and his decisions. Collider Movie Talk. Oh. Now, this is an exclusive you're going to only get here. So, what do you think of the timing of everything? Here's an article, another article from metro.co.uk. Danny Boyle blames quitting Bond on being too much of a fan of the franchise. Boy, does that sound familiar. They go with ruin for Star Wars, kick fans off the franchises, fire them all. Kathleen Kennedy did that. You can't be a fan and make a good movie. Where does this idea come from? Danny Boyle has hinted the true reason behind him quitting the new Bond movie is the fact he's too big of a fan. Danny dramatically quit his role as leading the charge of the 25th Bond movie, reportedly over plans to kill off the spy in the forthcoming film to make way for a regeneration. However, Danny has now given more of an insight into reason before his decision to step down, and he's blaming it on being a super fan. Does this sound familiar, Star Wars fans? Speaking to Radio Times, he hinted his aficionado status hampered his ability to be an unbiased director. He said, the books were everything to me when I was a kid. I read them multiple times. Like everyone else, I saw the films, but I'd already read the books, so I had a different relationship with the characters. Although, I think it'd be impossible for a Bond aficionado to write or direct a Bond film. So that's where you get ruin, more than likely, who doesn't know the property and just wants to subvert expectations. What better way, if you want to kill Bond off, than to get this hitman for franchises and fictional characters? And how many times have I said before, they will never announce his firing, just endless other announcements, and that's how they cover their tracks. Tell me your thoughts on this development. This is exactly what popped into my head when I heard about Daniel Craig joining Rian Johnson's next movie. I think it's called Knives Out. Man, that really proves he's hard at work on his trilogy. The timing is suspect, and the other thing that's suspect is after they film this indie movie that these art house hipsters love to do, but they're more than willing to accept big million-dollar paychecks for franchise films, but all they care about is their art house stuff. And that's what they're doing next. That's why Daniel Craig is one of the major reasons Bond 25 is delayed. And that's why, if you're a Bond fan, you got to be worried about Rian Johnson ruining Bond. Well, maybe it is already ruined for you. Tell me your thoughts. Honestly, for me, the next Bond film was dead to me anyway, as long as Daniel Craig was attached. And that's before I thought this other man baby was going to join him, because they're both man babies with their behavior and claiming he wanted to slit his wrists if he ever had to be Bond again when they offered him $150 million for 2 movies. Don't ever forget that. And regardless if Ruin's attached to it or not, I'm boycotting Bond 25 if Daniel Craig is in it. Keep pretentious a-holes away from fan franchises. That is my goal. Tell me if you agree. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. I plan on replying to as many comments as possible. Thanks for sticking with me. One of the rumored reasons Danny Boyle was let go is Daniel Craig wants Bond to die. What better way than getting the guy that killed off Star Wars and Luke Skywalker? And Kelly Marie Tran as a Bond girl. Whew, that could happen too. And you know what, Uncle Ethan, it's not worth it. Kelly Marie Tran is not worth it as a Bond girl if Ruin is attached to Bond. Don't think about it. You don't follow me anywhere, just join the conversation. I'll see you in the next one.